Welcome to the 2020 Wayne Hills NFL Draft Preview Show. I'm your host, Aaron Hook, and alongside Isaiah Ahumada, Brandon Caprioni, Billy Busacca, Luca, Yannuzzi, and Jonah Carleton, we'll be giving you our in-depth analysis and thoughts on all things 2020 NFL Draft. We'll be starting with my segment, which is all about the New York Jets. So the Jets have kind of put themselves in a unique position here, relative to their franchise, where they have a chance this year to go out and get a big-time playmaker at wideout. In free agency, the Jets made big splashes. They got 3 new offensive linemen, Connor McGovern and George Fant, amongst those that they signed, and then they re-signed Alex Lewis. So they bolstered their offensive line in free agency. And while guys are still going to be there on the board for the Jets on Thursday night, like Mekhi Becton out of Louisville and Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa, the Jets are really in a spot now where they're going to go after a big-time wide receiver, a big-time playmaker, and try to help Sam Darnold, find a running mate down the road who we can rely on for years and years to come. And the 3 guys they're looking at the most, 2 of them coming from Alabama, Henry Ruggs III and Jerry Jeudy. Both guys, a little bit undersized, maybe 5'10", 5'11", but they both have elite speed, elite playmaking ability, and just a really good knack of getting off the line really fast. And they both had monster years at Alabama this year. And then the third guy they're looking at, and the guy that most mock drafts are projecting the Jets to take at number 11, is CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. And he is just, he's just a beast. He's 6'3". Again, he's really quick as well, and he has great hands. He's a big-time guy to make plays down the field. He had a huge year at Oklahoma. And, the Jets, if they can get him at number 11, which it seems like they're going to be able to, because most mock drafts are saying they're going to be able to scoop him up at number 11, he's going to be a great addition, to the Jets offense, which already features Le'Veon Bell in the backfield, and to add a big-time guy that Sam Darnold, again, can rely on to make plays deep down the field is going to be huge. And while the Jets do value, again, protecting Sam Darnold, it was a big issue last year. They went out in free agency this year and bolstered their offensive line, and that has put them in a really good spot now for the first time in what seems like forever for the Jets to go out and get a big-time playmaker in the draft. And I had a chance to speak to another Jets fan and a friend of mine, Jack Woodard, on his thoughts about who the Jets should take at number 11.
Okay, so quite simply, the guy that the Jets need to pick in this draft is CeeDee Lamb. He's the number 1 priority. Everyone's talking about we need to pick an offensive lineman, Tristan Wirfs, a bunch of other names being thrown around, Mekhi Becton, but the Jets don't need that. We just upgraded so much with our O-line and free agency that we should be fine there for the upcoming year. We could wait another year, but I really do think we should be fine in that category because we upgraded it so much, and there's always free agency signings, even more if we want to. We need to pick a receiver with the first pick at 11. CeeDee Lamb is the only choice. He's the most electric player in the draft. It's not Jerry Jeudy. It's not Henry Ruggs. It's CeeDee Lamb. He's the most electric player in the draft. He can return kicks. He can return punts. And he's an outstanding receiver. It's what the Jets need. The glaring hole in this team right now is that receiver, and that's the position they need to pick in this draft.
So as you can see, me and Jack are pretty much in the same frame of mind. We expect CeeDee Lamb to pretty much, be the guy who goes to the Jets at number 11. If not him, then definitely Ruggs or Jeudy. We both think that, with the additions the Jets made to their offensive line this offseason, they're really in a good spot now to go out and get a star wide receiver, which I fully expect them to do. And I have to agree with him. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be the pick at number 11 for the Jets, and I think he should be the pick going to New York at the number 11 spot. Now we're going to throw it over to Isaiah Ahumada, who will give you his thoughts and analysis on the other New York team, the New York Giants, and what they should do with the number 4 overall pick on Thursday night.
The current situation, the NFL draft is still on, so I'm here to talk about the New York Giants and their pick for this year's draft. Last year was definitely a surprise. David Gettleman, new GM for the Giants, has made some fans happy and some fans, a little disappointed. But I think he's done a great job. Of course, he drafted Saquon Barkley, much needed pick in the draft about 2 years ago. Last year, he picked Daniel Jones at number 6 when everyone thought we needed a defensive player and thought Daniel Jones could be selected later in the round. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does that, pulls a trick again, and doesn't draft a defensive player. Last year, Josh Allen was there. He took, of course, Daniel Jones, and he needed a QB for the future after missing out on Sam Darnold and taking Saquon Barkley in the other year's draft. So since he is the QB of the future, we're gonna need to protect him because he had a lot of fumbles last year, many fumbles. Some of it his fault, some of it not. But we still need to protect him because our offensive line hasn't been as great since those Super Bowl winning championship eras. And I think David Gettleman will pull one off and try to draft a lineman if he goes for offense. And some good choices are Andre Thomas from Georgia, Tristan Wirfs from Iowa, and Jedrick Wills Jr. from Alabama. Those are some great choices. Some great linemen that are much needed, and they can work around this new system that we have since we have new coaches. And I think if we can just protect Daniel Jones and give him some time, he can do some great things. He definitely showed himself this year, showing that he can step up after, Eli Manning retired. So he is the QB now and the starter, so we need to protect them. Definitely, and to make sure he doesn't cause any fumbles in big games. We've shown that we can keep up with many good teams and that Giants are ready to make a move. So if they go with offense, I think offensive line is a big need. And one of those three guys, man, I think they're a great selection. But if we go for defense, my pick would be Isaiah Simmons. Of course, he has my first name, so I wouldn't be mad about that. I'd be pretty thrilled. I think he's a great player. He's had 67 solo tackles, 7 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 3 interceptions. He's definitely one of those versatile inside linebackers, and we definitely need some linebackers. The defense hasn't been the same since 2016. Of course, that team had a lot of guys at JPP. They had Landon Collins, Janoris Jenkins, Eli Apple, Oliver Vernon, Harrison Snacks. We had Jonathan Hankins. We had a lot of good guys, DRC. And since then, the defense hasn't been the same. We haven't made the playoffs. And this year, it's really showed that we need defense. Our corners got burnt many times. Our linebackers and safeties were missing tackles. And it's a huge problem. We weren't bringing any pressure. Sometimes we were inconsistent in the first half. We'll be, very great, like against the Patriots when we kind of, we kept it competitive and, kept it going. And then the second half, this team just loses what they did in the first half and they let the game go. And there's many times where they're bad in the first half, like against Tampa Bay, and they completely shut out a team in the second half, like they did against Tampa Bay when Daniel Jones started for the first time. And that's a problem because if you have inconsistent defense, it's not going to be great at the end of the game, as you saw with those many losses because of the defense. And I'm a guy who likes defense. The Giants are known for being a defensive team. You saw in all the Super Bowls, especially with Lawrence Taylor and that defense. That linebacker crew was great and helped us beat the Bills. A very great offensive team. And you also saw it Super Bowl 42 when the Giants defense slowed down Randy Moss and they sacked Tom Brady and made sure he was uncomfortable. And that's one of those that's one of the big reasons that we won that Super Bowl, because of that great defensive line, with Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, OC. Defense is a big need. We missed out on Josh Allen last year, and he did pretty good his rookie year. And he's doing great. So I think I think defense is the big priority. Offensive linemen can be drafted, but defense, we need top defensive guys. And since I think Chase Young will be selected by the Redskins, I think Isaiah Simmons is a great pick for what's left. And I would like to see it. And then there's also the possibility of trading down. David Gettleman has talked about that and said that he's willing to trade down if he sees the right offer. I don't like that idea, but since last year they had 3 first-round picks, I had no problem with those picks. I think they're great picks, but still, I just think we should just go for what's the best thing that's left and try to just build this team. I think this team is a very young team, and you saw that they had I think the third most youngest players to start. They were third, and this team is very young, so it's understandable why they were pretty bad last year. The defense was pretty young, going against top players and stuff like that. And we have a young QB, a young running back, young weapons. So I think we're good on wide receivers. We can probably draft one later. We're good tight ends. We just need defense. We have some pretty good defensive linemen. We need linebackers, safeties, corners. Corners got burned, but of course they were young last year. And I think we're good. I think this is the draft. This is the first year, I think, where we don't really need a huge, big player. We just need a player that's good enough to start and to make a big impact. Of course, we drafted Saquon, who was a huge impact to our offense. And if we draft a lineman, then we can protect him, open holes for him to run, because last year he couldn't do anything because the offensive line wouldn't give him enough time to or open up holes for him to go through. So offensive lineman is a big need as well, especially for Saquon to work, and of course Daniel Jones in the offense. But we've seen that the offensive line did pretty well, because we scored over 30 points in many games, which we couldn't do the past 2 years. So I don't think that's a big need, but defense I think is a huge need. We definitely need defense because our defense is really bad, and Isaiah Simmons I think would be a great pick. So those are my idea for who the Giants might select, and hopefully we'll see. You never know with David Gettleman, he might just pull out something. You never know. He drafted Saquon, then went to Daniel Jones, and he's a wild, but I think he's a good GM. He's made some pretty good drafts, and you've seen it with Daniel Jones, Saquon, and of course Darius Slayton, who's been a big impact. So those are the top guys I can see the Giants selecting. So let's see who wears the hat on draft night. So let's go Big Blue. Let's see what you can do, and we need new jerseys. So those are the top picks I think the Giants should select.
Thanks, Isaiah. As a Giants fan myself, I would be happy with any of those selections, as they would all be great additions to the team. Hello, I am Luca Yannuzzi, and this is my NFL 2020 mock draft for the top 10 picks. So the first overall pick this year goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, and with that selection they are going to go with quarterback Joe Burrow from LSU. Heisman winner in 2019 with 60 touchdowns and a 76% completion rate. Those stats all deserving for the award that he received. He also put out a tweet saying that he does not care who he's picked by, he does not care when he's picked. It's just his love for the game, going up from college to NFL, playing at a professional level, and that's really all he cares about. He just wants to play and has a great love for the game. It's only a boost that he will be picked, most likely, number 1 overall this year. So the number 2 overall pick goes to the Washington Redskins, and with that selection they will take defensive end Chase Young from Ohio State. 46 tackles, 16.5 sacks. This guy is a defensive beast. He's going to be helped out by Montez Sweat also at the defensive end position. Really just going to lead to an impenetrable defense for the other teams in the NFC East. The number 3 pick originally was going to the Detroit Lions. However, they want to trade down, and the Miami Dolphins wanted to trade up so they get a better chance at getting a quarterback, which I predict that's what they're going to do. The Miami Dolphins will take the number 3 overall pick, and with that they will select quarterback Justin Herbert from Oregon, 3,471 overall passing yards, 32 touchdowns, a great season, and I feel like he's going to be the staple quarterback for the Dolphins that they have needed for quite some time now. They've been looking for one in the draft for a couple of years, and now I finally think they've found their guy. The number 4 pick, my New York Giants. Their selection is going to be offensive tackle Jedrick Wills from Alabama. Standing at 6'5", 320 pounds, this guy is a monster. A really key player for the Giants, as they've needed someone in their offensive line for quite some time. For the past couple of years, they haven't selected an offensive lineman with their first round pick, and now this year I believe they will. And he played left tackle at Alabama, but he can play it on either the left or right side. A versatile player who will do a really great job if he gets picked by the Giants for protecting Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley in the backfield. So the number 5 pick, the Detroit Lions, from the trade with the Dolphins. The Lions will select cornerback Jeff Okudah from Ohio State, 35 tackles, 9 blocks, a speed demon as well. Though he had a minor injury at the combine, on the positive side, what the Detroit Lions are really looking at is his 4.48 second time in the 40-yard dash, truly showing his speed and agility, and that will be a great addition to the Detroit Lion defense. The number 6 pick, the Los Angeles Chargers, will select quarterback Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, 33 touchdowns, 72% completion rate, a really great quarterback. Some people predict that he is going to slide because the Los Angeles Chargers need a left tackle more than anything. And I can agree, yes, they absolutely do. But the Los Angeles Chargers are moving to a new stadium. I believe it's called SoFi Park or SoFi Stadium. But they really need to get up ticket sales. I feel like a new left tackle, though it is very important for team play, I feel like just the team overall necessarily more needs Tua, and he'll get ticket sales up compared to whether if they picked a star left tackle, if they pick a star quarterback, the team will still be set up to succeed. The 7 pick goes to the Carolina Panthers. With that selection, they will take defensive tackle Derek Brown from Auburn. 55 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. What more can you ask for out of a guy? The Carolina Panthers have needed another defensive tackle for a few years now, and he's really going to buff up this Panthers defense. Number 8, the Arizona Cardinals. With their pick, they will select linebacker and safety Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. 104 tackles, 7 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. This guy's an incredible player and also a versatile one as well, playing at linebacker and safety. In recent history, Arizona with their defensive picks have gone with not necessarily non-position players, but he is a very versatile player and is going to be a great addition to Arizona if they do end up picking him. Number 10, the Cleveland Browns. With that selection, they will go with offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs from Iowa, standing at 6'5", 332 pounds. Really a big guy to help out the offensive line, protecting Baker Mayfield. Other offensive tackles, I feel like are going to slide. The Jets may pick one up with pick number 11. Actually, no, they probably will pick up one with number 11, but there's other offensive tackles that may slide. Tristan Wirfs, really great matchup for Cleveland. So that is the top 10 picks, but we'll take it back to the top with number 1 as Brandon Caprioni goes over the number 1 pick.
Thanks, Luca. Now we're going to discuss what's on everyone's mind. Who will be going number 1 in this talented 2020 NFL Draft? In order to do that, we first need to look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They're the team that's going to make the decision of the number 1 pick. This Cincinnati team is one with a lot of problems, going 2-14 last season. The biggest needs the Bengals need to look at in this upcoming draft are at quarterback, offensive line, and defense. The quarterback position has been held down in Cincinnati by Andy Dalton for the past 9 years, and he has done a decent job. However, with an awful year for the Bengals last year and numerous talks of trading or cutting Dalton, many are calling for a new quarterback and therefore a new era of Cincinnati football. Their offensive line also needs an upgrade, as last year they spent the draft upgrading the left side of their offensive line. They need to do the same on the right this year. Lastly, the Bengals had an awful defensive year last year, ranking 30th in defensive efficiency. As most of their guys are aging and retiring, it'll be important for the Bengals to look to upgrade their defensive ends, safeties, and quarters in the upcoming draft. Let's now look at who the Bengals should target with their first pick. The obvious choice on everyone's mind, Joe Burrow out of LSU. Joe Burrow is what any team wants out of a new franchise-leading quarterback out of the draft. He led LSU to a national championship, setting records in the process. He's a hard worker, he's a leader, and there's no reason why anyone would overlook him with the first pick in this draft. However, there are other options the Bengals can take, like Chase Young, the 6'5", 240 edge rusher at Ohio State. Young is what many are calling a sure thing, even getting praise from pros like Dwayne Haskins. This is someone who the Bengals should 100% consider As I said before, the Bengals are desperate for a better defense this year, and Chase Young will go a long way in fixing a lot of their problems. Ultimately, however, many are confident what the Bengals want and what the Bengals need is a quarterback to lead them in the new era, to lead them in the future. That's why I think the Bengals should and will go Joe Burrow with their first pick. So it's been a lot of talk of Bengals trading down. This will only happen on one condition. If the Bengals aren't confident Joe Burrow can lead a team and rather take Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert. So if this is the case, the Bengals will have to look to teams that need a quarterback as badly as they do, like the Miami Dolphins or Los Angeles Chargers. The Miami Dolphins had the 5th pick and the Chargers had the 6th pick. So in both case scenarios, the Bengals would be able to take Tagovailoa or Herbert if they trade down, along with getting a lot of other promising pieces, of course. While both Tagovailoa and Herbert show undeniable promise, neither hold the promise or the potential that Joe Burrow has. I don't think the Bengals consider trading down for that reason. I think it's undeniable that Joe Burrow is their guy. What do the people of Wayne Hills think? Let's now go to some Wayne Hills students who answered who will go first in the 2020 draft and why.
I think the Bengals will take Joe Burrow with the first overall pick.
I definitely think that Joe Burrow will be the number 1 pick on Thursday in the 2020 NFL Draft, going to the Cincinnati Bengals.
I think I had multiple players in mind, or I'd have to do some research. But no, there's one player in mind. No research needed. It's Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is going to be selected number 1 by the Bengals.
Burrow's from Ohio, and he'd be playing in front of his home state, which is awesome. And he actually played at Ohio State for a little bit.
And in my opinion, when you need to rebuild, which is what they're doing, I think you have to start, and there's only one place to start. And that's not only the most important position in football, but in my opinion, the most important position in all of sports. And that's the quarterback. And when looking at all these quarterback prospects coming into the NFL this year, you got Justin Herbert's, there's only one guy, in my opinion, that stands alone from everyone else, especially for the Bengals, and that one player is Joe Burrow.
Last year for LSU, Burrow passed for 5,600 yards and 60 touchdowns, which is a college football record.
Let me explain to you why. Not only did Joe Burrow have a phenomenal season last year, Joe Burrow threw for 5,600 yards, 60 touchdowns, 6 picks, 76% completion percentage.
Also, in my opinion, he's the best QB in the draft by far, and the Bengals are really lacking at the quarterback position right now. They really need one. They didn't really have one last year.
Make throws that no one else can make. And what sets Joe Burrow apart from all the others, in my opinion, is not that just he's a great player, but he has all the intangibles that a franchise quarterback should possess. Joe Burrow is a hard worker, a leader, gets his teammates to rally around him, and that's what I really think the Bengals need, especially right now in a rebuilding stage where they're going to be losing a lot. They need a guy that's going in there willing to win, compete, even though they're not going to be winning most games, but he's going to be competing day in, day out.
Yeah, but people in Wayne Hills have spoken. They think Joe Burrow should go number 1 to the Cincinnati Bengals, and I happen to agree with them. Now let's go to Jonah, who will be discussing draft busts for the 2020 NFL Draft.
Alright, so I'm going to be doing 3 potential busts in the 2020 NFL Draft. Here we go. So at number 1, I have Tua Tagovailoa. Now you might say that, why him? He has, number 1, he's a very injury-prone player now. He had a nasty hip fracture last year that caused him to sit out for the whole season. And that's a key reason that it could ruin anyone's career in any sport. Injuries. You know, in basketball, Derrick Rose, Tracy McGrady, all these guys plagued by injuries. You got players in the NFL now that were stars just a couple years ago, and they're still young, but they're plagued by injuries. You got Andrew Luck, who had he was having a great career up until the injuries just kept him down, and he retired at a very young age. I believe it was 28. All right, so at number 2, we got Jalen Hurts, quarterback from Oklahoma. Now, Jalen has had a very promising career so far, and he's going to be a top pick in the NFL Draft this year. But there are some flaws in his game. In his last 4 collegiate games, he completed under 53% of his passes, which is not a good number, and a lot of the passes were short passes. And, you know, he's a scrambling quarterback, so sometimes it's expected that they're not going to be throwing as well. But, you know, and when it comes to the NFL, you're going to have to be able to throw the ball really well if you want to do stuff for your team, because, you know, when they stop your run game, you're going to have another option. And at number 3, we got Cole Kmet, a tight end out of Notre Dame. Now, he's projected to go number 23 to the New England Patriots. And, of course, the Patriots have had Rob Gronkowski for a long time. And, Cole's going to have to fill his void. And, one of the biggest flaws about Cole is that he doesn't have much experience. And, experience could go a long way when it comes to being a successful NFL player. So we're going to have to see what happens with him, but I don't think it's looking good. Now we're going to throw it to Billy Busacca with some of his potential NFL draft sleepers.
Hello everyone, these are the top sleepers in the NFL draft. First off, we have KJ Hamler. He's projected round 2, pick 50. He's a very explosive slot receiver from Penn State University. He is a shorter receiver that has great speed and will be very good in long routes. He is great at making big plays and creating space in 1v1 coverage. And if it weren't for a very heavy wide receiver draft class, he would probably be a first-round receiver. We also have Jordan Love. Jordan Love is projected round 1, pick 24 from Utah State University. Jordan is a very raw talent who has, in my opinion, the highest ceiling of the quarterbacks in the draft. He has a very strong arm and is very athletic. Jordan showed his talent by making precise passes while also showing his great arm talent. He is a quarterback who can become a star in the NFL. Next up, we have Javon Kinlaw, projected round 1, pick 15 from South Carolina. Kinlaw is one of the best prospects in the draft. He has great size at 6'5", 324 pounds. He played in a rough SEC division where he recorded 6 sacks and 35 tackles in 12 starts. During the season, he dominated his opponents and looked unstoppable on the field. His physical gifts make him one of the most talked about sleepers. After, we have another great player in Curtis Weaver, projected round 1, pick 26, a very talented edge rusher from Boise State University. Weaver had an excellent year, recording 13.5 sacks and 18.5 tackles for loss. He's a very skilled edge and is one of the most skilled in the draft. He has the ability to get to the quarterback with ease and is a very intelligent football player. Finally, we have Bryce Hall, projected round 2, pick 61 from Virginia. Hall probably would have gone higher in the draft if it wasn't for his injury in the late half of the season. Hall in 2018 led the league in pass deflections at 22 and proved to be a very athletic corner who uses his length and play recognition to challenge plays. He has the potential to be a shutdown corner. These are the NFL draft sleepers. I'm going to go send it back to Aaron for our last segment.
Well, that's all we've got for you here on the 2020 Wayne Hills TV NFL Draft Preview Show. Be sure to tune in to ESPN or NFL Network on Thursday night to see who your team will pick.